Hey, David, how you doing?
James, hello. How are you today?
I'm practicing my face slap.
On me?
No, not on you. Actually, I don't know how we lost your connection. Suddenly, we were in a panic here. We thought we had an earthquake going on. I don't know if it's high winds or what. The building started to move, and then we lost you. And I said, oh, geez, we're in the middle of an earthquake. Maybe it's just high winds. There's some pretty high winds out there. You okay out there?
Yeah, it's just pretty dull weather out here right now. It's not really snowing. It's just kind of white and cold.
Okay. Well, since we did lose you, we ran Wayne LaPierre's clip, and so we're kind of short on time. But tell me a little bit about this, what's going on here with this thing that's going on.
Oh, the Congressional Research Report. They just earlier in the week, or I think it was last week early, they released a report called Gun Control Legislation. And what the Congressional Research Service is, James, is it is the research branch of the Library of Congress. Their charter, their function basically is if the Congress needs reports on any issues, any topical issues, they do the research for them and then they provide them with their findings. They just released one on gun control legislation, and they pretty much gave them some statistics, some history, some current law, some bills that have come up recently, and then they got into what they called other salient and recurring gun control measures. And these are things that have recently been facing Congress. In many cases, they are facing them again. They are either being proposed at the congressional level or they are being demanded by the anti-defense people, the media, and the Brady campaign and people like that. And the things that came across that struck us as salient and recurring gun control issues included background check against terror watch lists, which, as we've discussed before, essentially means, taking away a person's rights without due process simply because they're suspected of something. They want to call it reforming regulation of federally licensed gun dealers, requiring background checks for private sales, basically ending all private sales. And there's a problem with that too, because they will not allow private sellers access to NICS data. So what they want to do is they want to funnel everything through their system. More strictly regulating certain firearms, basically an assault weapons ban, and characterizing 50 cals as sniper rifles.
Okay, David, let me back up just a little bit because I'm not sure I understand who actually called for this. Was this the Congress who went to the Library of Congress and said, hey, I want you to look into this and supply me with information?
That is my understanding. One of the mechanisms that gets reports like this generated is through request by Congress. In terms of, did anyone in particular request this particular report? I have to say I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
I can find out for you and let you know.
Okay. No, I'm just kind of curious, and I think the viewers are too, as to who is behind it and who actually asked for this research.
This particular report does not appear to be that agenda driven. Okay, it appears to have a lot of balance to it in terms of defining both sides of the issue. And when I bring up the fact that the salient and recurring issues all seem to be anti-gun measures, basically that's not the fault of the report writer. That indictment is something that I lay on our supposedly pro-gun legislators, the ones who accept our support at election time and our money and our A ratings and things like that, but don't necessarily show leadership in terms of pulling back on any of the existing gun laws. The anti-gunners always use language like common sense gun laws, and we need to have reasonable regulations, and the gun lobby never compromises. And we say, well, the compromise all seems to be one-sided. When it ever comes to rolling things back, you people fight kicking and screaming and start calling names. And of course, what is up before them now looks kind of like a Brady campaign wish list with some of those issues that I brought up. And of course, some of my readers were saying, well, how come there's nobody out there pushing for national CCW reciprocity, or, to get that absurd Hughes Amendment, which prevents us from owning modern machine guns, repealed, or, getting rid of the sporting purposes justification, which we talked about last week when we talked about the shotgun import. Or now that you have NICS, why is it that you can't have interstate purchases and just things of that nature?
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
They never
David,
seem to back up the other way.
Yeah, David, when something like this comes up and the administration has been so silent on guns here lately, I think many of us, including myself, have when we read something like this, we go, well, here it comes. They're doing research, they're putting something together, and I think that's probably, when I read that what we were going to speak about today, that was probably the first thing I thought. I said, okay, here's the beginning. Somebody's pulling research together, and something big is going to happen within the next 60, 90 days maybe, but they're obviously working on it, and I think you could probably agree with me on that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We've seen Carolyn McCarthy introduce a magazine capacity limit bill. We see all kinds of different pushes, to the so-called gun show loophole. We saw McCarthy and we saw Lautenberg last year introduce legislation to get people whose names appear on terror watch lists, not to be able to buy a gun. And of course, we've also, discussed in the past how Department of Homeland Security will consider the fact that, you belong to a patriotic organization or possibly the NRA, or possibly even have a bumper sticker on your car, can get you suspect in the eyes of the government. Things that are just unacceptable and un-American to the way you and I were raised and brought up.
Right. Well, I think Dianne Feinstein is also working on an issue along with Kathy McCarthy, so either in conjunction or separate issues that are dealing with similar matters. So I think there's a lot more to come ahead. I got to run, David. We kind of lost you there and we got behind in time, but we'll see you again next week.
Okay, James, thank you.
Thanks.